Hey, this is big time. We are live. And we're going to see if Wicked can join us today. We reached out. She was busy on Wednesday. We'll take a look. And a lot of stuff to go over. Man, we had a day in history yesterday, huh? The Supreme Court said race based admissions is unconstitutional. I wanted to see if Wicked wanted to cover that today. I think it was an interesting thing that they got from the Grutter case. Grutter. And it seemed to boil around. They seemed to base it down. I think I like to see the reasoning and the logic that they have behind it. And what they said was, from what I could understand, and I have no legal experience or expertise. What it seemed to boil down to was race can only be used as a plus, not a negative. You can't reduce people down to stereotypes. And at some point, it had to end, meaning like they gave it a 25-year cap. But if you listen to the opening arguments with the lawyers from the University of North Carolina and Harvard, there was no ending in sight. They wanted to go further. They weren't able to distinguish between East Asian and West Asian. They weren't able to distinguish between Indian and Pakistani or Middle Eastern. They were reducing people down to stereotypes. And, an example is for 3 years at Harvard, African Americans scored the highest on their character test while Asian Americans scored the lowest. And I don't mean like some or a few or most. I mean all. Every black scored the highest on a character test. Every Asian scored the lowest. Stereotyping. At University of North Carolina, they had a 40-point system where race was used as either a plus or a negative. So it's a zero-sum game. If race can be used to admit someone, they would also use race to deny someone. And then finally, 20 years later, there was no ending in sight. And I think these are good logical reasons that, hey, like enough. And of course, you watched all CNN, MSNBC. President Biden came out and said, this is going to stop. We have to America's a racist country. We have to stop. We have to go even further. And I wanted to, a couple of interesting videos have come out. John Doyle has a video where he went to an HBCU and argues with a bunch of blacks. And they tell him how much they hate America and how much everything's his fault. And they don't like him and they don't want to be around him. And they blame him and his people for everything. People at times say they're going to flip over the table. He shouldn't be there. They threaten him. One guy even said, what if I kick your ass right now? And like, it's fascinating to me. I also have a clip of a black woman on CNN saying that black people prefer black doctors. They can't listen to white doctors. White doctors don't understand. This was also said at the HBCU. I just find it really interesting that this one group of people tells you, we don't like you. We don't want to be around you. We don't want our children around you. We want our own spaces run by our people. We're only going to see our people for medical. And you would think the natural conclusion will be, oh, so we should segregate. And then they go, oh, you're racist. Well, I don't understand. You just told me you hate me. You just told me you don't want to be around me. You don't want to be around my children. You don't want to work with me. You want your own, and you want all your own stuff with all your own people. And they say it to your face every fucking day. We can cover what happened with Mayor Adams, where he yelled at the small hat old woman. They basically had a victim off. I was a slave. And she said, I'm from the Holocaust. So you had the woman in Wisconsin who said, fuck the suburbs. Oh, your children are coming into our neighborhood and destroying everything and making it Africa. And she said, fuck your home. I like it. One group of people over and over and over and over and over is allowed to tell you what they think of you and how much they hate you. every day. Every day. There's even what's interesting is another interesting thing that happened is Clarence Thomas and Ketanji Jackson, their opinions, their what the opinion you write, whether you are for or against the decision, they directly address one another. And it's just interesting that how that's just evidence right there that they are not a monolith. They are not a collective. I mean, there's no community. There's no community. There is no black community. That's all bullshit. That's all bullshit. But right there, you have two black people, a black man and a black woman, who have completely different, 100% completely different viewpoints on this one topic. Clarence Thomas says that he feels guilty for affirmative action. He feels as though it denied him the ability to get a job out of school. He even says that he took a I think a cigar wrapper or a banana wrapper. He took some wrapper and put it on his Yale degree. And, and then Ketanji Brown Jackson said, well, there are so many things wrong with this, I can't even begin. And it's like, what a fucking cop-out. If you went to Harvard, if there are all these things are wrong, you're a justice on the Supreme Court. They will give you could write your opinion for a year and it would totally be there's no judgment. You have you're a Supreme Court. I don't right there. They're not a stereotype. I'm taking my ball and going home. Hey, Wicked.
Hey. Sorry, I run late on Fridays. I don't get off work until 7, so.
No, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you.
Oh no, so we're talking about the affirmative action ruling from the Supreme Court.
We can talk about whatever you want.
Oh no, this is your gig. I'm along for the ride.
Well, there was certainly drama. But especially between. I'll tell you what. What would you like to do? I can pull up the decision and we can read it, or do you want to start with the drama between Clarence Thomas and Ketanji Jackson?
Oh, let's do the drama.
Oh, okay.
You know me.
And a video came out of this white guy named John Doyle, and he went to the HBCU in North Carolina and basically argues with a bunch of black people for an hour and a half. And it's just fascinating what they say to him, how they treat him openly. We don't want to be around you. We don't like you. We need our own spaces. We need our spaces run by our people. This country is racist. We're never going to have a fair shake. People come up and say they're going to flip the table or they're going to beat him up. They're going to he had to have armed security with him to sit down at a table and talk to them.
Okay. What was he saying? I hate you niggers?
He just said, America's not a racist country. Change my mind. And he had cameras and he had a table and he would hand someone a microphone. You could sit down and talk to him. He's doing the thing that Steven Crowder does.
Okay.
Steven Crowder will take a table, go sit down somewhere and be like, I don't believe I'm pro-choice. Abortion is murder. Change my mind. Guns save lives. Change my mind. And people will sit down and they have a debate. So he did a similar thing, but he just shows you I just find it fascinating how he's treated, but white people still accept it. People walk up to him. I'm going to beat you up.
Okay, whatever happened to civilized discourse?
Well, it doesn't exist. And we can watch that too. Whatever you want to hear, whatever you want to do.
Okay, I'm wide open. I'm wide awake too.
You wide awake? Oh, good.
Wide awake.
I might have some headphone things, so you might have to work with me. But Justice Clarence Thomas. All right, hang on. Let me pull up Google. 1 second. All right, I got the article. Let me pull it up, and I'll read it, and we'll go through it.
Cool.
And then, do you want to watch the people debating the guy on the campus?
Yeah, let's see the civilized discourse.
Okay. I also have the decision.
Yeah.
I got the decision as well, and I can ask you what you think about it.
Okay, because
I was curious
talking about this because one of the big things that is so controversial is how many Asians are in favor of the decision, and then how many Black people are upset that Asians are in favor of that decision because they're saying that the only reason why you're here in the first place is because of Black people. So there's another part of that controversy.
Oh, is that like when Black people say they build everything?
You know what? In the same vibe. Yeah, Black people built this whole country, the whole country.
And my question always is, well, how come I only see Central American people at every Home Depot I work at who are trying to do construction?
Because they ain't did shit.
Because you would think if
years. You know what? A lot of Black people are still sitting on the merits that their ancestors did 100 and something years ago in slavery. They're not talking about what they have actually done, I don't know, for the last 100 years. I'm going to say 100 years. They're still talking about what happened in, where's that one place where they had the Black Wall Street? They're still talking about
Tulsa.
that. I'm like, Tulsa. Okay, you're still talking about Tulsa. That was in 1920 something. Well, it's 2020 something. Like the old Janet Jackson song. What have you done for me lately?
Better have a J-O-B if you're going to be with me. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, that's like me bragging on what
Black women were telling Black men then.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Black women were telling Black men, and this would be a DZ talking point. Black women were telling Black men in the 80s, you need to have a job. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's how radically
the
culture has changed.
All right, can you see this?
Yes.
All right, I think there's a news clip, or let's see the news clip. Oh no, never mind.
July 4th, a CNN concert.
No. Okay. The Supreme Court's landmark ruling Thursday on affirmative action pitted its two Black justices against each other, with the ideologically opposed jurists employing, I'll try to read, unusually sharp language attacking each other by name. The majority opinion, authored by Chief Justice John Roberts, said colleges and universities can no longer take race into consideration as a specific basis for granting admission, saying programs at Harvard and the University of North Carolina violated the Equal Protection Clause because they failed to offer measurable objectives to justify the use of race. Oh, can I say something about what you're saying about Blacks being mad at Asians?
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, Blacks expect Asians to just screw over their own children?
Black, yes. Basically, yes.
So in other words, your children don't deserve to go to college. Move out of the way for us.
Right. Or you know what? You should take the crumbs we give you after we finish eating. Whether, basically.
Even though Asians pay more into the tax system.
Even though Asians, yeah, exactly. I don't see the United States government telling Asian men that they're costing the government $50 billion a year because they don't work or they don't work enough. I don't see that.
And you know, because I like to, you know, statistics are fun. 1970, when the Koreans came to LA, and we have the news clip. I have the news clip from Crime of Color or Color of Crime, the documentary we were watching. 1970, under 100 Korean-owned stores. 1990, over 7,000 Korean-owned stores.
Yeah.
Now there's more to the situation than that, but okay. Justice Clarence Thomas and the court's other 4 conservatives joined Roberts' opinion, but Thomas, who in 1991 became the second black person to ascend to the nation's highest court, issued a lengthy concurrence that attacked such admissions programs and tore into arguments posited by liberal Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson, the first black woman to join the court, who penned her own fiery dissent in the case. Thomas has previously acknowledged that he made it to Yale Law School because of affirmative action, but he has long criticized such policies. And he wrote about this in 1993 I think it was the Grutter. He spoke in personal terms in his concurrence as he put forth his argument against the use of the policies, which he described as, quote, rudderless, race-based preferences designed to ensure a particular racial mix in their entering classes. Even in the segregated South, where I grew up, individuals were not the sum of their skin color. And feel free to jump in whenever you want.
You know what? Just keep on reading. I'll say what I have to say at the end.
You say whatever. Look, my channel. You say
okay, you know, I'm just looking at him because he's about as disingenuous as you can. He is about as corrupt as you can get. He's a hypocrite because
he got a white wife.
No, not because he has a white wife. You know, because he has a. You know, I don't care about him and a white wife. I care about the fact that this man, at every stage of his life, has been boosted up because of affirmative action or something like that. Even when he was a child, he benefited because I think his mother was on welfare and all the rest of that. But he's against all those programs. He's one of those people who climbed the ladder and now he wants to kick the ladder back so nobody else can climb the ladder. That's what I'm looking at him as. If he had achieved everything on his own, I wouldn't have this feeling about him. The fact of the matter is he used the system, but now he wants to destroy the system now that he made it. Now, as far as how the system operates and everything, I got a lot of objections to it too. I think a lot of affirmative action really has not been good for Black people. It's been good for white women, but not so much for Black people.
I know the study you're talking about. I have a video on that study. I've heard that before.
But so, and I do believe that people should advance on their own merits. I don't want a doctor who got into medical school and who made it through because of affirmative action. I want a doctor who actually knows their shit and is at top of the line. I want a lawyer who knows their shit. I don't want somebody who's just been passed along because of the color of their skin or because of their gender. I want the best.
I say, to go with your point, I had a Korean doctor who did a major surgery on me.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't like Black men because he lives in Philly.
Mm-hmm.
And this is something I try to tell people all the time. And this is like a litmus test for people. You can tell. I say, is somebody able to be good at their job? They'll be racist.
Oops. I think you cut out on me.
Is someone able to still be good at their job but still hate a group of people?
Well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't want that person. If I was that group of people that they hate, I wouldn't want them working for me. You know, but yeah, yes, you can be a racist and still be good at your profession. Just that if you're a racist, if I was Black, I wouldn't bother with you.
Right.
But you know, yeah, you can. Look, some people are very good at one thing, some people are very good at another. But it depends. And for me, are you a good human being? Are you actively trying to harm these people that you don't like? Or you just don't like them and you don't want them around you? What's going on with that?
Right.
That, to me, that makes the difference. I don't care about your personal opinion. I care if you're actually doing something That's what I care about.
So in other words, your son, if you involve from a personal standpoint, lived experience from a group, if that group has treated you poorly and you're basing isn't that called learned prejudice?
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry, but if you touch the stove and it's hot, you're supposed to be wary of the stove from now on. I mean, that makes sense to me. You've been burned once, so you should be like a little bit cautious.
Well, when I talk to people on the left or liberals, they think that the doctor, not only is that impossible, but they think that he shouldn't be a doctor. Well, he's racist. He shouldn't be allowed to be a surgeon. And I go, yeah, but I said, yeah, but that's too bad. I'm alive because of this dude. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah. Look, I get it. You know, people want everything to always be either white or black. Either it's all of one thing or it's all of another. Either it's all good and wonderful or it's evil and horrible. But that's not how life is. Right. Very few of us are all one thing or all another. My opinion, for what it's worth.
No, I appreciate it. All right. While I am painfully aware of the social and economic ravages which have befallen my race and all who suffer discrimination, I hold out enduring hope that this country will live up to its principles so clearly enunciated in the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution of the United States, that all men are created equal, are equal citizens, and must be treated equally before the law. As he read his concurrence from the bench, Jackson, who joined the court last year, stared blankly ahead. Though Justice Sonia Sotomayor read her dissent from the bench, Jackson did not read her own dissent, in which she went after Thomas's concurrence and accused the majority of having a let them eat cake obliviousness in how the ruling announced color blindness for all by legal fiat. A footnote near the end of Jackson's dissent went after the concurrence by Thomas, with the liberal justice accusing her colleague of demonstrating an obsession with race consciousness that far outstrips my or UNC's holistic understanding that race can be a factor that affects applicants' unique life experiences. Justice Thomas ignites too many more straw men to list or fully extinguish here, Jackson wrote. I think that's a cop-out right there.
You know,
go ahead.
No, go ahead. I want to listen. I'm listening. Let me listen.
Well, when you say you should, that to me is similar to someone saying you should educate yourself. I shouldn't have to explain it to you. It's painfully obvious. Well, you're a Supreme Court Justice of the United States. If she wants to take a year to write her dissent, no one will stop her. Like, I want to hear, this is a dissent. I want to hear your legal mind at work. The conservatives don't have everything right. So I want to, if there's a legal thing they're missing, name some of them.
Right. Yeah. I agree. I agree.
This to me is a cop-out. Oh, there's so many problems. I'm not going to name any. When's the last time you or I talked about something? When's the last time DZ presented a problem and didn't bring receipts?
You know, because she knew that, you know what, I don't know Ketanji Brown. I don't know a lot about her. Honestly, I don't.
She's the one who said, when asked what a woman is, she couldn't answer the question.
You know what? And that's why I know
I'm not a biologist.
She's a tool of the Democratic Party. That's what I know. I know that. I know that, you know what, when it comes to politics, she's playing politics too. And that's why they chose her.
Right.
You know, I know that about her. You know, so when you say something like that, I'm like, okay, now everything you say, I'm going to look through that lens.
Side eye?
Exactly. I'm side-eyeing the hell out of you because you said something like that. Now I see what direction you're coming from. That you're not impartial either. You are not impartial either. You're corrupt, but on a different. You may not be monetarily corrupt like you know Clarence is, because he's corrupt when it comes to money. But her, I think she's corrupt when it comes to ideology. I don't trust either one of them.
The takeaway is that those who demand that no one think about race, a classic pink elephant paradox, refuse to see, much less solve for, the elephant in the room, the race-linked disparities that continue to impede achievement of our great nation's full potential. In her broader dissent, Jackson said that the argument made by the challengers that affirmative action programs are unfair blinks both from history and reality and in ways too numerous to count. So that's the second time she's pulling that. But the response is simple: our country has never been colorblind. While Jackson recused herself from the Harvard case, she did hear the UNC case, and her dissent was focused on the latter. Thomas then explicitly attacks Jackson's opinion. As she sees things, we are all exonerably trapped in a fundamentally racist society with the original sin of slavery and the historical subjugation of Black Americans still determining our lives today. Worse still, Justice Jackson uses her broad observations about statistical relationships between race and select measures of health, wealth, and well-being to label all Blacks as victims. Her desire to do so is unfathomable to me. Thomas, one of the court's most conservative members, has long been known for his distaste for affirmative action policies. He has been open about the fact that he made it to Yale because of affirmative action, but says the stigma of preferential treatment made it difficult for him to find a job after college. In his memoir, My Grandfather's Son, he says he felt tricked by paternalistic whites at Yale who recruited Black students. After graduating from Yale, I met a Black alumnus of the University of Michigan Law School who told me that he made a point of not mentioning his race on his application. I wished with all my heart that I'd done the same. I learned the hard way that a law degree from Yale meant one thing for white and another for Black, no matter how much anyone denied it. As a symbol of my disillusionment, I peeled a 15-cent price sticker off of a package of cigars. Now, what kind of cigars are 15 cents? And stuck it on the frame of my law degree to remind myself of the mistake I'd made by going to Yale. He dissented in 2003, the Grutter versus Bullinger. I believe Blacks can achieve in every avenue of American life without the meddling of university administrators.
All of that, but he still took full advantage of it his whole life. That's what I'm looking at him. He's saying, yes, these things are horrible, blah, 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 this. But I took advantage of it, and that's how I got to be where I'm at. And that's the reason why he was chosen by Reagan. By Reagan, right? Yeah, by Reagan.
91, I think.
Is it okay? Okay, so then by Bush. Okay, so that's why I look at him like, yeah, I can see that, you have this viewpoint, but you're a hypocrite because you took full advantage of all of the things that you're dissenting against. You took advantage of it. You got ahead. You got to where you are, and you want to make sure nobody else does now afterwards. Now that you made it, put the ladder, aside.
Can I give it a different angle?
No, go right ahead.
I like him because of his angle. I like him because of his distrust against the police.
Mm-hmm.
This is another thing people don't seem to understand of why you need the Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
After the Parkland shooting,
the
Supreme Court ruled that the police have no duty to act.
No duty to act.
They have, Yeah, 2005. They don't have to save you.
No.
The same thing happened in New York City in 2011 when a guy with a knife came on the subway. Oh, here, let me hang on. Let me go to this is a point I like to make. Let me bring this up. Yeah, they have no duty to act after 2005. After the Parkland shooting case. There's a video. There's a great video from. It should just be. All right, here it is. I don't know where it would be. So they make a funny video about this court case where here, hang on, let me go to Google. All right, I got it. Hang on. All right, so this happened in New York. So not only do the police have no duty to act, that's from 2005. This is a video that covers a real thing that happened in New York, I think in 2011, where the police stood by and did nothing. And this is, I think, a plus for Clarence Thomas because he advocates for you to defend yourself because of growing up in his support of the Black Panthers.
Mm.
So he's a gun rights advocate because he says, he seems to be in the middle that there's a high amount of crime my community commits, but also the police can't be trusted, which is why he's an advocate for the Second Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, check this out. Can you see this? This is cracked.
Yeah.
If you've ever been on the internet, I mean, here right now, you probably wound up in the comment section of at least one article about a mass shooting, some other kind of killing spree, and seen dozens of assholes make comments like,
dude, if I was there, I would have totally stopped that guy. I totally know Kung Fu, and I just like knock the weapon out of his hand and then break his neck with a spin kick, and then my mom would finally love me.
My name is Joe Lazito, and one day in 2011, my morning commute was interrupted by the tail end of a 28-hour-long stabbing spree. The reason that spree ended is because I stopped it, and I learned. The stabber, Maxim Gelman, was already famous across the city. I didn't know any of that, though, because I'd gotten up too early to catch the paper. So when an obviously high person staggered crazily into the train, I just kind of figured morning in New York, That creepy guy, who I'd later learn was Gelman, started back.
And you can see this, right?
Mm-hmm.
I want to try to stop it periodically. I don't want to get my channel copyrighted.
Gotcha. Uh-huh.
Hanging on the door of the engineer's compartment. Let me in. I was sitting right by the door. The only thing separating the engineer and myself was a wall. It turned out there were 2 cops on the other side of the door, lying in wait in case Gelman hopped on this train. I found out later they'd recognized him, but they didn't charge out to stop him. Instead, they asked him a polite question.
Who are you?
I'm the police.
You're not the police.
You'd expect 2 armed cops to, I don't know, maybe do something about a wanted fugitive spree killer that they were on the train specifically to arrest, but they stayed put. So Gelman walked up to me, whipped out an 8-inch knife, and told me,
You're going to die.
Then he stabbed me. I was in the sort of situation every man thinks about at least twice a day. Suddenly thrust into a life or death situation that required me to become a badass. Unfortunately, I had no badass training, but I have watched a lot of MMA, and when he brought back his arm to stab me again, I decided to dive in for a single leg takedown. It should have looked like this. But in reality, I shot in too high and wound up tackling him by the waist, rather than getting him in the leg. So he stabbed me repeatedly in the skull. The good news for you armchair badasses is that you can have no idea what you're doing but still succeed on dumb luck and balls. I outweigh Gelman by a lot, so he went down despite the power of a knife on his side. So we're both on the ground, I'm on top, and he's still got his stabbing machine in hand. I tried to grab his right hand, which
And the whole time the police just watch.
Okay.
held the knife, with my left, but I missed, and he sliced me good in the thumb. I tried to catch him a second time and failed, so he slashed me again in my left tricep. My third grab was a chom, though. I caught his hand and slammed it into the ground. He dropped the knife. Once I had him pinned and was, dying of blood loss, the cops decided it was safe enough to arrest Gelman. Next thing I remember is a cop tapping me on the shoulder. "You can get up now, we got him." I thought that was being charitable, but at the time I didn't exactly feel argumentative. There was no pain yet, just this warm feeling from the blood gushing out of me. It was like standing in the shower with warm water spraying the top of your head and flowing down the back of your neck. And again, when you'd expect the police to jump to my aid, they didn't. None of them even touched me. The only guy to render aid was another passenger, Alfred Douglas, aka Napkin Man, because he staunched my bleeding injuries with napkins. I think Napkin Man probably saved my life, but at this point I'd been stabbed roughly all the times a person can be stabbed while remaining conscious. And so I passed out. When I eventually came to in the hospital, it was kind of frustrating to realize that none of the early coverage mentioned me or Napkin Man. The police gave all the credit to the two officers who'd been in the subway train with me, only neither of them actually even left the booth until I disarmed Gelman. During the grand jury hearing, one of the cops testified, "I started to come out, I opened the door, but I thought Gelman had a gun, so I closed the door and stayed inside." I can see how in a stressful situation you might mistake a knife for a gun, but also that kind of makes it more infuriating. If you, Mr. Cop A. Policington, thinks this insane, drug-addled murderer has a gun, and he's sitting on a train bound for Times Square, don't you want to stop him at all costs? So yeah, I decided to sue the NYPD. The first case I brought got dropped, so I acted as my own lawyer for the second case and finally made it to a judge. The judge said,
"Mr. Lozito's version of the story sounds highly credible, and his version of events rings true."
but I still lost the case. Here's how that was justified in its original legalese.
No direct promises of protection were made to Mr. Lozito, nor were there direct actions taken to protect Mr. Lozito prior to the attack. Therefore, a special duty did not exist.
It turns out there was a major piece of legal precedent in my way. In 2005, the Supreme Court ruled on Castle Rock v. Gonzalez. In that case, a woman sued the Castle Rock PD after they failed to respond when she complained that her estranged husband had violated a protective order and abducted their kids. He eventually murdered them. The Supreme Court ruled in the police department's favor. It turns out it's literally not their job to protect people. So to the internet badasses who are about to comment on this video and claim they...
So what do you think?
Well, one thing we learned through one thing I learned with the BLM riots is that the police are not there to protect people. They're there to protect property.
The mayor.
Rich people's property. Oh yeah, the mayor. Yeah. But rich people's property. They're not there to protect individual citizens. So yeah, you better strap up and arm yourself because the cops, they're not gonna help you. They're gonna show up later on and they're gonna do paperwork. And hopefully they get the paperwork right, because look at what happened to that chick in Chicago that the guy was beating all in the head. And she ended up shooting, her son ended up shooting him.
Yeah. I disagreed with, that's actually one of the few times I've disagreed with DZ's take on that.
You know what? I was listening and I was like, because I'm here in Chicago and I'm hearing, different things. And, DZ was centering in on the fact that this woman, supposedly set up all these different GoFundMes. But I'm here in Chicago, and she put out a statement saying she didn't sign up for any GoFundMes. Those are all people who did that in her name to make money off the situation.
Interesting.
But also, she was a mammy for sure, because she also was it that day or the day before, she made it a point to put on her social media how she was blessing all of these different Black single fathers with money because she wanted to show them love.
Who's this? The mom?
Yeah, the woman who got who got attacked
She got
in the hot
assaulted.
dogs.
No, I'm
Yeah.
sorry. She got battered. I'm sorry. Assault is the threat of force.
Okay.
Battery is the
Battered.
force.
Because he was hitting her with full force. He had his arm going all the way back to like bash the hell out of her. But this
Oh yeah, he was gonna
woman,
kill her.
yeah, he just got out of jail for a domestic battery. He
Can you see my
just got
screen?
out of jail for it.
He just got out of jail.
He just got out of jail for beating the crap out of some woman. And there he is again, beating the hell out of this woman, like at the hot dog stand.
Can I draw a parallel?
Please.
I will say that as a concealed carry myself, I don't know why she didn't have her piece on her.
Yeah.
Like that, why don't you have mace something?
Because she was taking it for granted. She lives in Blackistan. She's a mammy. She has faith in in these dudes, right? I'm telling you,
That's terrifying.
she just got through saying how she was blessing these black men who are fathers, because they're not appreciated.
So she is a mammy. Okay.
Oh, she was definitely a mammy. Oh, for sure. But when DZ was saying that she was a grifter, she wasn't a grifter, but she was a mammy.
Can I show a similar situation? So everybody had a problem with the son having the gun. Right. And I don't see a problem with him shooting the dude. My thing is, you just should have shot him until he was dead. Because that's what they teach us here in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
You shoot until dead.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's a crime to even brandish. If you brandish, the expectation is you're going to shoot.
Right.
And they try to teach you, like, look, don't pull it. It's not a bluff.
No.
If you pull it and the person realizes you're bluffing, they'll take it from you.
Mm-hmm.
But I can't have any smoke for the boy. Can you see my screen?
Yeah, I can see your screen.
This is a similar situation. I used to eat pizza at this place. This is a 15th and Spring Garden, La Scala's. Mm-hmm. This is right down the street from Community College, Philadelphia. So we have a very similar situation. Can I play this for you, and can we talk about it?
Yeah, yes, please.
All right, cool. And then we can go to the HBCU drama, the debates.
Okay.
So, all right. So let me play the video. So this guy wants change. You got a mom and a kid working at a pizza store. So see him reach over?
Mm-hmm.
So strong arm robbery.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Son is right here. You're going to see him like laterally walk left and right because he's probably terrified. And then watch what happens. Right there. See it?
Mm-hmm.
Shoots him in the face. So the boy and the mom both work at this pizza place. The gun is owned by the father. This is a Castle Doctrine situation because the boy works there, the parents own the business, and the gun is the property of the parents. And Larry Krasner did try to fuck this family over, but somebody leaked that Larry Krasner wasn't charging black kids with gun charges. They were all magically disappearing.
Right. Yeah, you talked about that.
L.A. Wilkes, the Philly cop, has a channel on YouTube. He talks about it.
Okay.
So that's my source. I'm not going there's so many problems. I'm not going to list them. Yeah, I don't fucking do that.
Mm-hmm.
I like to give a direct, specific example.
Mm-hmm.
What this kid did, he was cleared by the law. And in Castle Doctrine, was it reasonable to believe for this son that his mom's life was in danger?
Yes.
Okay. And they're committing a armed robbery. Well, a strong arm robbery. And in Pennsylvania, currently, before the Democrats destroy it and the Republicans are too weak, little pussy bitches, you can currently use lethal force to defend yourself against assault and battery, robbery, kidnapping, rape, or attempted murder. And it's reasonable to use that force against someone else if you believe that, like a family member.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm saying in this case, he had a legal justification to use lethal force to stop this dude from robbing his mom.
Yeah, clearly.
And I've had weak ass people. Oh, you think it's okay to shoot someone in the face over $200? I think it's okay to shoot him over 2 cents, over 2 fucking cents. Hell yeah. How about get a job? How about leave hardworking people alone and you won't get shot in the face? What does DZ say? Fuck around, find out.
Fuck around and find out is exactly right.
Right. Now, my comparison is here's another 14-year-old boy who defended his mom with a gun legally owned by the parents. So, to draw a parallel, I can't give any smoke to the boy for using his mom's gun to save his mom's life, because then I'm a fucking hypocrite. Now, I don't know if it's true if he opened fire at the dude's girlfriend. Is that true? I don't know.
No, that's not true.
Okay. And now, did he chase the guy down and shoot him outside?
Okay, that I haven't seen any information on that.
Okay.
And I'm following this. I haven't seen anybody say
Oh,
that.
yeah,
Now, they've accused him of all of this, but if that was the case, then they would have pursued charges against him. And even if he did, he should have shot that bastard.
And that's what I'm saying. He and look, he probably shot him once. He seems like a good kid. He was probably in fear, and that's totally understandable. I can totally understand that somebody is scared to shoot somebody. That makes perfect sense to me. I don't expect you to become Rambo and mag dump. You know what I mean? Like, he shot somebody who was attacking his mom. And if I'm going to be the type of person to say, oh, well, guns are bad and guns are this, well, I have to say the same thing in this scenario here, don't I?
That kid, I don't care what anybody says. I think that kid was a hero. That kid saved his mom. He reacted. That's a 14-year-old boy. And if I have a child, I have a 19-year-old. If somebody were jumping me and my son saw it and he reacted that way, I would be so proud of my son for helping to save his mother. Because aren't men supposed to protect women? And your son, oh my God, this is your child that you do everything in your power, hopefully, if you're a decent human being, if you're a decent mother, to bring up well. You sacrifice everything. And if your child sees you in danger, they're going to react. Unless, of course, you have a child who's like, I don't know what kind of kid wouldn't react to seeing their mother being attacked. And a boy, all that testosterone, hell yeah, gun that bastard down. He went in for a hot dog and he came back with wings, calling on his grandma. And he met his grandma, all right.
And it's like and I have to say, now let me take it back to the Second Amendment. Had both of these boys not had a firearm, is it possible to say that, or is it likely or probable to say their mother might be dead?
Right, exactly. Because if you're looking at the situation from the eyes of these kids, seeing their mothers being attacked so brutally, of course they would think that their mothers are in mortal danger.
Well, I'll say that the black woman was she could have been killed being beaten to death. I'll say that is different to someone committing a strong arm robbery across the counter. Now, what I'll say though is the fear.
Yeah.
I would argue the fear is similar. Now, someone could argue force spectrum, which is others being killed in front of you while the other mother's being robbed.
Mhm.
Okay, I can totally see that argument. However, currently the law is you can use lethal force to stop all of those things where I live.
I'm looking at it from the perspective of a child, because those are both children. They're young teenagers. They're
Yeah.
seeing in their eyes, they're seeing their mother in mortal danger. Now, one is a little bit more clear because he's like, this guy is taking his fist and going all the way back to Mississippi to clock the hell out of this woman. He's beating the shit out of her.
Yeah.
The other
he could
one
have killed
is
her.
a strong guy. Yeah, exactly. You hit somebody the wrong way. Yes, you can kill them. Okay. And the other kid is like, he's seeing a strong arm, but he's also seeing the fact that yes, it could escalate and end up like killing his parent.
And if somebody says, well, the strong arm robbery is different, then I could bring up the point, yeah, but both of these kids live in Blackistan.
And they know how it can escalate.
Correct. Yes, exactly. Yes. And and as another point, when you said that guy had just gotten out of prison for beating another woman,
Mm-hmm.
that guy who got shot, the two men behind him had just robbed a CVS.
So no wonder nobody did anything to help her.
Yeah, those two guys were with him. They were his crew.
Hmm.
And there's a picture of that dude in a wheelchair with his face all blown the fuck apart. And I can't show it.
I know.
But it's like, I don't know what to say. Like, leave people, buy some pizza. They probably give you pizza if you asked.
That's not the point. This is who the guy was just a freaking menace. He was a menace, and his whole damn family are whole freaking menaces. They're walking around Chicago with t-shirts calling him the Knockout King.
Are you serious?
I am serious.
Can you find that on, I'll tell you what, can you please find that on, well, DZ might cover it, but I'm watching the show tonight. I work second shift, so I'm always on the show.
I will go back and I will snapshot it. And I haven't made any videos in a minute, but I'm gonna make a video about this one.
Yeah, girl, let's talk about it next week, girl. Let's sit down and have some tea.
Yes, because his family is trash.
Are they really? Is that really happening? He's the
trash.
People wearing T-shirts of that dude.
T-shirts.
The Knockout King.
Wearing T-shirts, talk about calling him the Knockout King. They even have it on this motherfucker's casket.
What? Oh my! Well, pause.
I kid you not. I kid you not. The mammies are in full force supporting their boy. So. Hello?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just looking.
Yeah. No, I'm gonna put together a video, and I'm gonna do a video on this dude, and I'm gonna do screenshots and everything.
That's insane. I believe you. But we got to bring the receipts.
Got to bring the receipts, but yeah, everybody in Chicago knows what's up with this dude. His family is in full force. They even tried to put a GoFundMe for him, but it was shut down. Yeah, all of that.
Can you really see this?
And now the mammy, she's got to move because she's been doxxed. Of course, she's been doxxed with all her information, and people are showing up at her house.
Yeah. Well, the black community believes in revenge.
The black community believes in revenge, and and he's got homeboys. So yeah, if she's smart, she'll move. But who can move at the drop of a hat? You know what I mean?
Right.
So she's got to deal with that. But the GoFundMes, that's like 5 GoFundMes. She didn't set those up. Other people are setting those up for her, theoretically for her.
For her, okay.
But I'm not putting her out to be like the most wonderful human being in the world, because she is a mammy. But she didn't deserve to have this guy try to beat the hell out of her because she wasn't ordering her food fast enough.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't have an issue with the son blowing the motherfucker away.
I don't have an issue with that at all. I give that boy a medal.
Yeah. And is it a fair comparison, the one I show to say that
so,
like
yeah, that's a young man. That's a young man protecting his mother. Come on, you don't get much better than that.
I used to eat pizza there when I went to Community College of Philly. That's right at Spring Garden and 15th. That's right off the subway, the block over.
Right. I mean, you know what? Yeah. I look, both boys are heroes to me. They protected their mother.
Yeah. Both kids. Yeah. So when DZ was saying that, yeah, everybody thinks this boy's a representation. It's like, well, he is. I understand the policy of the channel and the chat is #all. And 99% of the time, I'm there. But that's the line. That's kind of the line that's hard for me to cross because
you know what? Absolutely. It's hard for me to cross, and I consider myself divested, but I was divested. Look, I've been divested for many, many, many years, since before DZ was alive.
Yeah.
Okay. And my, I want to say #all, but I actually know decent black men who I know, not like some young, I'm talking about guys who have lived their whole life. I'm looking at them now. They're in their 70s, whatever it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I want to say #all, but I can't say #all because I actually know decent black men who do what they're supposed to do, who work hard, who lead their families, who respect their wives, who aren't pieces of shit. I know these guys, but I don't take anything for granted. So I kind of want to say #all, and on the other hand, I want to say, we really are generalizing, and maybe we shouldn't, but just for safety's sake, let's say #all.
I mean, it's the same for me with white people because my own family would throw their children under the bus to score points.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And that is the thing with white liberals. White liberals are so dangerous to everybody because they are willing to put common sense aside for an ideology.
I was arguing with a family member of mine about this decision yesterday, and my family member said, "Oh, you're just speaking in generalities." I said, the President of the United States is not a generality. The President of the United States came forward yesterday and said, this decision is wrong. This is a rogue court. I have to write an executive order. We have to keep being racist to whites and Asians. It's like, that's not a generality. That's the person who runs the country. So don't gaslight me and hand wave what a majority of the people think about this decision. You're essentially saying to me, just like what the blacks are saying to the Asians, that I should tell my children to go fuck themselves and just allow themselves less opportunity.
Right.
And
okay.
I said, and this is
for white guilt. Oh, because some white people in the past, not just in the past, in the present, because I'm not one of those people that believes racism doesn't exist. I know it exists. But not every white person is a racist. Not every white person, is giving all of their energy to racist thoughts. But there are some out there who really, really are. It is what it is, but we're not going to do this whole blanket condemnation. And so when I see, white people who want to wring their hands and, oh my God, we have to put ourselves at the lowest level and make up for the fact that some white people in the past were assholes, and did all of these things. I'm like, maybe you want to think about that. Okay. Because I am a black woman who is a descendant of American slavery. I know my history. But I'm not sitting there talking about, all these horrible white people. I'm saying, this did happen in the past. Let's look and see what happened. Let's recognize it and let's move on. Because the people that are sitting next to me right now, they're not the ones who did these things in the past. They're schlubs just like the rest of us. They're getting shit on by rich people just like the rest of us. So let's not pretend it doesn't happen, because it does, but it's not everybody. So let's not do these blanket condemnations. And if white people want to look after their own, well, you know what? Isn't that natural? Aren't you supposed to look after your own?
That's what I was gonna. Well, that's the point I was gonna make. I was gonna say you would do whatever you could for your children, right?
I look after my own. I look after my
Right.
child. I would move the world for my child, and I have.
And that's what I'm doing.
Right.
And the point I was trying to make was, I'm like, okay, a generality. The mayor of Chicago, Brendan Johnson, doesn't punish black children because they're black, and that's his way of fighting the system. And before he was the mayor in 2018, on video, he said he doesn't give homework or Fs to black children as his way of fighting the system.
So black children shouldn't have any consequences for their behavior. Do you know what that creates? That creates monsters.
Africa.
Okay? When you can do whatever in the hell you want to do with no consequences, that's when you create monsters.
Right. And the idea that I'm going to allow my child to be around that.
Oh, hell no.
Because of some sort of, it's the same thing I tell people who don't like guns. It's like, look, if you don't like them, then don't use them. Also, but don't try to disarm me and tell me that's better for me to protect myself. Also, don't call the police because they have guns. Stand by what you believe, because once you call 911, you believe in guns.
Right. All bets are off. When you call 911, you're saying, I need lethal force.
Right. Right. So, okay. Actually, I have two videos. Or do you just want me to go right to the right to this one?
Yeah, let's do that.
All right. So this channel is called John Doyle. He's the 23-year-old conservative. But he's not like a boomer conservative, you know? He's a little more to the right. I think he's actually he's 23. I think he's starting to be pushed into nationalism, maybe even for his own people. And I don't want to like white supreme pizza. That doesn't bother me, especially after how he's treated by all these people around him. Again, I find it weird that a group of people says to you, we don't like you, we hate you, everything's your fault, we don't want to be around you, we want to go to our own school, we want to live in our own neighborhood, we want our doctors and teachers to look like us. And then you say to them, okay, well, let's segregate. And then they go, whoa, that's racist.
Right, okay?
Yeah.
So you don't get to have your cake and eat it too. You want all of these things. Okay, you want all, so do it. What's stopping you? Do it. You want to have your own community? Then make your own community. You want to have your own doctors? Okay, send your people to school to be their doctors. Like, what is it that you want? You want all of these things to occur magically, or do you want to actually work for these things? Because I see other communities working for these things. You know, it's like they want these things, but they want these things to somehow be given to them instead of working for it. And that's frustrating. Okay, let's move on. Let's move on, Big.
Let me show this one clip.
Okay.
And then I'll go to the video. Again, I like to bring the receipts. Like, because someone will say, oh, no, they don't prefer themselves. No, nobody would say that. Here it is. Ready?
Okay.
This is on CNN.
As a black person in America in the 21st century.
And research shows that when we have a more diverse physician workforce, there's more understanding and more trust between the patient and the doctor. If the doctor has an understanding of the patient's cultural experiences, cultural background, lived experiences, especially when it comes to racism or discrimination or other aspects of their life, that can help with that physician-patient a relationship. And we also see that patients are more likely to follow a physician's medical advice if they do have a feeling of being heard and understood. So all this plays a role in really improving public health.
Ketanji.
And the same. So black people want black doctors and black people want black teachers. Right?
So then do it. What's
Okay.
stopping you? What's stopping you?
Does every other group get that?
Well, I know that Jewish people, especially Orthodox Jewish people, like completely isolate themselves as much as possible. They do it,
Yeah.
and they're fine with it. If this is what you want, then go for it. Then do it. But it seems like
Right.
they want these things, but they want it to somehow be given to them.
Oh, okay. Well, I just wanted to show that clip
Mm-hmm.
that in the mainstream media, black people say they want black doctors. I just want to show that clip because I always hate it when people say, "Oh, that didn't happen." I hate that defense.
The whole just denial of reality. Yeah, it is happening. It's right there. It's happening. Here's the proof. Here are the receipts.
Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
No, I think that it just acknowledges that America used to be a great country and it's not anymore. And it just wants to be made great again.
Can you hear this?
Yeah, I can hear it.
Mass incarceration. Do you think that has any factor?
We could get because you're not going to like this. I actually think we have an under-incarceration problem in this country. So even when Black Americans have that generational wealth you're talking about, it's not, well, I like to have research so I can come have these conversations. I'm not wrong, though. No, this is from the Bureau of Justice Statistics, Bureau of Labor Statistics. So white people are incapable of honesty. We're misaligned with reality.
What do you think of that? We're not even in the video yet. You are incapable of honesty. To your face. I don't know. This is a college. Why would I send my child here?
Exactly. You know what? Because liberal arts colleges are garbage nowadays. They just have an agenda that they're teaching these kids, and it's garbage. It's like everything. If you don't adhere to this liberal doctrine, they get this smug, this whole smug feeling like, they're so much better. You don't know. You're ignorant. Blah blah blah. And there's this condensation. I went to school. I went to college. Oh my God! I graduated from college 35 years ago. I can't even relate to what's going on nowadays. And if I had my son, he's not going to college. My son is he's in the plumbers union and he's learning how to be a plumber.
A trade. Okay.
A real trade that's going to put money on the table, that there's no such thing as an out of work plumber. He can travel the world and be a plumber. It's a legitimate trade. So he's not going to college. And I'm glad, because I'm thinking what they're learning is a bunch of crap. That whole liberal doctrine that's taken over the college campuses. I mean, these kids are arguing about what is a woman. If you can't identify what's a woman, how the hell are you going to argue about racism?
Well, let's keep going. Let's let it play for a little bit. And then,
okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I agree. It's like, as a parent, I'm not going to send my child to be treated this way. And I'm going to pull up another video where white kids were human meat shields for black kids. I have that. Let's let it play.
We just get rid of everything and just look at the generational wealth that your family was allowed to pass down onto each other. Not your family specifically. I mean the white.
Anytime, you just tell me to stop.
White man,
Okay.
so you don't think I'm talking directly about you. But the white man, the amount
Right.
of things that you guys were allowed to pass down that we don't have.
Yeah.
well, we try to do that.
like that.
That's what brought black people into prison. The difference
Yes, sir.
between black people not liking white people and white people not liking black people is if you're white and you're racist, you don't like me because I'm black. If I'm black and I don't like you because you're white, I don't like you because of my history with white people and because of my ancestors' history.
Races rank each other.
What do you think about that?
Well, she's off on a tangent. And you know, and I attribute it all to, like, you know, youth and vigor, but she's wrong. She's mistaken. But she's got an audience behind her. You know, there are a lot of Black people who have been brought up with the idea that everything wrong in this world that happens to them is due to racism. Because they don't want to look at, like, okay, all the other factors. I know that a lot of white people gained their wealth after World War II with a lot of things from the GI Bill, that they were able to accumulate wealth they never had before, because white people were some broke ass motherfuckers like everybody else. If you look at the history going back, most white people were broke.
The Great Depression was 19.
Yeah, okay, didn't have anything. But after World War II, with the GI Bill and a few other things that happened, they were able to start, like, pulling ahead and accumulating wealth. Okay, fine. I know all about that because my dad and my stepdad fought in World War II. Neither were able to get the GI Bill. Okay, yeah. Racism. Okay, but also, even though they weren't able to get the GI Bill, the advantages that would have given them, they still were able to do very well for their families, and both of them ended up doing very well economically. So
we'll have to talk about that. That's interesting. I want to hear about that.
Well, you know, hey, if you just depend on the government giving you something, you're going to be shit out of luck. I don't care what color you are.
Especially
now,
with the police.
a lot of white men who fought in World War II, they were able to get, like, a great advantage because they were able to take advantage of the GI Bill. Whereas 90-something% of Black men who tried to, you know, take advantage of the GI Bill were, you know, they were denied. That's legitimate. But what have you done after that? What did you do after that? What did your parents do after that? Because my parents kept on trying. One way or the other. We didn't just go, oh, racism, let's give up and let's all just sink into the gutter. You know, and especially I'm looking at these young people. I'm like, you're not even talking about your parents. You're talking about your grandparents or your great grandparents. What did they do after they were denied? I don't know. You know,
what I'm hearing is you want to hear more of these kids complaining. That's what I'm hearing.
Oh, they complain, but they're not actually looking at, like, what was actually happening in their family. Is this just an excuse
I'll tell you what,
them not to succeed?
Let's get to the first guy and watch how he acts. Watch. Okay. It's fat. It's not surprising to me. I'm sure it won't be surprising to you. But when I actually try to explain it to someone, they get all butthurt. It's weird.
What we see is that white Americans rank themselves pretty much in the middle. Every other race also pretty much in the middle. But every other race, whether it's Hispanics, Asians, or Blacks, all rank themselves the highest in terms of who they want to be around. And they all rank whites the lowest. I don't know why. Maybe we're just that off-putting. Everyone wants to be around a white person. Look at you right now. You all want to be around the white people. Okay. I appreciate that. Yes.
They say to his face, "We don't want to be around you." That's unbelievable. I don't get it.
The United States has officially celebrated Juneteenth on June 19th, thanks to Joe Biden signing the Juneteenth National Independence Day Act in 2021, establishing the day as a federal holiday. And it commemorates the anniversary of the order by Major General Gordon Granger proclaiming freedom for enslaved people in Texas on June 19th, 1865. And this is actually the first federal holiday to be added to the calendar since the addition of Martin Luther King Jr. Day in 1983, which was another holiday meant to solidify the left-wing historiography that the glory of this country simply comes from its ability to liberate itself in all regards guards from the evil white men who built it. And I know a lot of well-meaning people think that Martin Luther King Jr. would just be appalled and completely against the actions and demands of the activist groups that claim to carry his torch today. But a study of the actual history of the civil rights movement and Martin Luther King Jr., the history which neither the right nor the left will touch, shows that things are playing out exactly as expected. And if you're interested in learning about it, I have a whole video on that as well. But the problem with Juneteenth isn't that it celebrates the anniversary of freeing enslaved people in Texas. Obviously, nobody supports slavery. That should go without saying. The problem is that the intent behind elevating this day to being a federal holiday is the same intent behind things like the 1619 Project, the Black National Anthem, Black Lives Matter, even our advertisements, which is to reorient the American historiography, the way that we understand and justify our own existence, history, and purpose, to be about the perpetual struggle of oppressed minorities against the evil white men who have been oppressing them this whole time. That's not true. It's not even half true. It's not, well, sure, it's somewhat true, but the left is just taking it too far. That's a cop-out. It's false. But if you're going to have a second Independence Day, a second national anthem, and a new history of America, which starts in 1619 instead of 1492, suggesting literally that the arrival of African slaves on the North American continent has been more consequential for the United States of America than the arrival of the European explorers in 1492, paving the way for the establishment of this country in the first place, then how could you expect this narrative to not reign, assuming that it's not already? The first step in dismantling this narrative is just speaking about it fully and honestly, which is why I decided to do a Change My Mind segment about it. Now, obviously, Steven Crowder came up with this idea.
So that's his table.
Yeah.
So keep going.
Yeah.
Any contention, anything you want to say about what he said?
No, I'm still listening to him to finish what he's saying.
Okay. All right.
He's done tons of them all across the country. He's had huge success. I always wanted to do one, but I didn't want to take his thing out of respect. However, once popular liberal streamer Destiny started doing them, I figured the IP is pretty much public domain now, so I went ahead and threw my hat in the ring. But if you by chance haven't heard of Steven Crowder, literally the most popular conservative on YouTube, the credit goes to him. This is his idea, especially because it turns out
I don't like Steven Crowder. He's a neocon. He's a fake conservative.
that he actually did one with the same premise, and I just went ahead and didn't even notice until I'd already spent the money to produce this video. So on account of that, I would like to issue an official "my bad, bro." But if we're talking about race in America, I'm not just going to go to some college campus nearby and listen to a bunch of spoiled white liberal snowflakes tell me about oppression. So I traveled all the way across the country to what 30 Seconds on Google told me is the best HBCU in the country to get the real answers. The results of just walking onto this HBCU campus with a sign simply declaring that America is not racist was students and people online calling for me to be killed, calling for me to be shot in the head, to be jumped, to be beaten, to be lit on fire, to be arrested and charged with a hate crime, people accusing me of domestic terrorism, etc., etc. One student posted on her Instagram story the description of what she called racist trash, which was that some white men came to campus and said that America isn't racist, that America doesn't lock up enough criminals, and that the only racism in America is from black people against white people. Well, that's not exactly what I said. It's interesting to me that she and her classmates would try to refute these bullet points by later telling me that it's literally unfair for me to be speaking to them since I know more on the subject than they do, by threatening my life and by otherwise spewing viciously racist sentiment at me because I am white. This girl also did not seem to like that I used, quote, big words. Her follow-up post would lend more insight into the type of person she is, since below the reiterated list of our crimes, she mentions that she finds it ridiculous that her university, which is public, followed the laws pertaining to free speech on campus, but yet when she and her roommates are in their apartment, they receive noise complaints for being too loud. So much for free speech. Remember this next time you're in a movie theater. It's just free speech, and if you don't like it, you can move to China. Another wrote that these whites have been getting really besides themselves lately. They need to realize we're not scared of them. In some places, they just need to not try that crazy stuff at. Keep that on their campus. Reasons we need to teach our black high schoolers the importance about going to an HBCU. Another said freedom of speech? This is a hate crime. They didn't understand why we were even allowed to set up in the first place. They said our font choice was evil. I thought it was playfully insensitive. They called us colonizers, as if that's an insult. White devils. Mayo monkeys, somewhat self-explanatory, I suppose. Now, palm-colored people, I actually had to look this up. It says we're dangerous, which is so true. I mean, people notoriously avoid living in palm-colored people neighborhoods, cities, and countries due to their high prevalence of violent crime. Shaved monkeys? I am not shaved. I am hairy, thank you. Now, a cave crawler, for those who don't know the more esoteric components of Black history, is a white person because it was actually Africans who taught Europeans how to build civilizations, literally saving them from living in caves like Neanderthals. You learn things like this on Black Twitter. Very fascinating stuff. And remember, evidence is like actually white supremacy. I mean, you must defer to the equally valid spoken word tradition of generational storytelling and lived experiences. Otherwise, you are literally Hitler. We recorded this back in February since it was Black History Month, and we figured that there would be no better time, place, and group of people for a discussion.
So you see this guy?
Mm-hmm.
That's one of his bodyguards. So he has actual security with him.
He needs security with him.
What does that say about a group of people?
The truth is offensive.
Oh, the truth is offensive. Yeah. Yeah. It's working so well, isn't it?
You know,
On
I
racial
guess
politics,
his
then
bodyguards
on that
can throw out
campus-
some big words too.
Nah, the way his suit fits him.
During that month and in the days following, we received hundreds more death threats, racist messages.
So are you interested so far? Is that
Yeah,
surprising at all?
Yeah, we're doing good here. I'm fascinated.
Okay. Is it a reasonable thing to sit down at a table and try to talk to people? Is that racist in any way? What do you think of that approach?
I'm sorry, but don't we have freedom of speech here? We should be able to discuss whatever as long as we're like, civilized human beings. Why can't we discuss anything, even if it is controversial? I don't get this whole we can't talk about anything anymore. Everything has to be censored because this is more of the same. This is censorship. I don't care if somebody says something that to me is offensive. You know what? You have the right to say that. As long as what do they say? You don't yell fire in a movie theater and put other people in danger. I don't agree with censorship. I don't agree with censorship at all. Say what you want to say. If you want to be an asshole and say something that other people don't agree with, whatever. But you know what? I say things all the time and I get censored. And I'm thinking, why am I getting censored for something so, whatever I'm saying, I think is pretty innocuous.
Yeah.
The right the left always accuses the right of censorship. They're always talking about books and all the rest of that. But the left really, really practices censorship to a degree I'm shocked about. It's pure hypocrisy.
Well, the right practices it when it comes to Israel.
The right practices censorship when it comes to sex and Israel. The left practices censorship when it has
everything.
It's everything, and they really, really freaking practice censorship. Mention anything about gender. The left will jump on you with both feet and both hands to censor you from saying anything other than what's the party line.
All right. I was trying to say that to my family. I was like, the problem with a woman like Ketanji Jackson saying what is a woman is words. When words change, then that becomes policy. Then it becomes law.
Exactly. And that's what the left is trying to do right now. They're trying to take these ideas they have and they're trying to put it into law and force it down everybody's throats.
Are you ready for this first conversation?
Yes, sir.
How fast do you? Okay.
Threats and viciously racist sentiment I've received after the fact, you must be expecting to watch me conduct myself in an extremely disrespectful and hateful manner. As the video continues, I would like you to be thinking to yourself about all the backlash that we received and if our conduct actually warrants it. There's no way that would be the response if I just sat down with a sign that reads America's not racist and invited people to speak with me, right? That's why I went to an HBCU for this discussion. I've noticed a lot of people like to have a safe version of this discussion by either hovering around the core of the topic or refusing to talk to actual black people about it. I'd like to provide a more accurate depiction of what these conversations should be and are like. My sign says that America is not racist because, of course, it isn't. It's not just that our laws or our institutions aren't racist. The whole country isn't racist. The people aren't, the culture isn't, the systems aren't. It literally does not exist. White Americans are statistically the least racist group of people on earth, and I'm tired of avoiding that fact because it might make people uncomfortable. The idea that the difference in group outcomes between white people and black people can be blamed on the individual or the collective actions of white people maneuvering against black people, which for some reason can never be proved, that's absurd. The closest they've gotten to proving this is by showing that unconscious or implicit biases can exist, and from there they infer that, well, this could translate into demonstrated patterns of behavior, but they never actually manifest into that demonstrated action. You would think then that there would be some more humility exercised in conversations about reparations, defunding the police, increased diversity quotas, affirmative action, et cetera, et cetera. But actually, if you even disagree with the root idea of all of those, that America at its core is racist, your life is threatened. Look at the language I use in this video: conversation, dialogue, the scar of slavery. None of it seems to matter. That type of dynamic is simply unsustainable. And I think that's becoming more clear to people as the years pass. Everything you see now that is quote unquote woke, that stems from this core idea. And until you attack it directly, you're only going to be buying yourself increasingly smaller windows of time. But enough with what I have to say. It's time to sit my white ass down and listen as we amplify black voices and put ourselves right at the center of a black experience in this tremendous Juneteenth celebration.
That was the Partridge Family's dozens.
Okay, I'm kind of liking this guy. I like his wording.
Looking back on the track for a little greenback. Got to find just
Is not racist changed my mind. We're here for Black History Month, just trying to have conversations. We spoke a little bit before we were recording. My position.
All right, let's have fun. First impression.
Well, you know what? I think that the way he's laying everything out so far, I'm like, okay, this guy seems fair, credible, open. Let's see what's happening. And he's giving them enough rope to hang themselves.
Oh, shit. Trying to get my channel taken down.
Oh, no. Oh, no, not that. But okay.
Rope. What do you mean? You mean lynching with rope?
Well, hey, there's a saying, give a guy a rope and he thinks he's a cowboy. Give them enough rope to hang themselves. Let them go. Give them all the space in the world that they can condemn themselves. And that's what it's like. You want to be a victim, but then again, you come off, when actually, you talk to this person, they're not a victim. Not at all. They're a predator.
You ready?
No, you're the problem.
Is essentially that America.
You're the problem.
In its modern state is not racist as a people, as an institution, any of the metrics by which you would try to measure that. I don't think it exists. And if it does exist, I would argue that it's actually racist systematically against white people. I think we see this in basically every institution, whether at a governmental level, in academia, we see this in all sorts of different NGOs. And even as a people, I think that anti-white sentiment is very common now, and it's sort of written off as nothing too serious. I think it's even promoted in a lot of aspects. So I'm open to having my mind change. I know you are as well. So I just be curious to get your thoughts on my position and your position as well.
Okay, so one, I don't really think my mind is going to be changed. And two, I have to let you understand that you do think that racism is affecting white people now, but literally you're standing on the biggest HBCU, the biggest public HBCU, North Carolina A&T, and I feel like you failed to realize that this is a HBCU, and the HBCU was actually created in order for Black people that was seeking education, in order to have a safe environment where they don't have to worry about racism, where they don't have to worry about their skin complexion, where they don't have to worry about if their hairstyle is suited as unprofessional or not. And I don't understand how you say that a lot of stuff is targeted towards white people when you guys made up these rules. You guys wrote the Constitution. Y'all didn't even include us. Y'all didn't see us as people when we first started off. And now we are here at a HBCU having
genetic fallacy
in this debate.
I agree with a lot of that, but I mean, the Constitution was written in the 18th century. This school was probably established in the 19th century. So this was
1891 to be exact.
So this was hundreds of years ago. I don't understand how that would translate to now contemporary America. I fully acknowledge that those things happened in the past, but in terms of what is affecting Black America now versus white America, I don't think that white America is the culprit.
So you don't think that white America is the culprit?
Correct.
Okay, I want to ask this again.
Sure.
So you do not think that white America is the culprit?
No, sir.
Is that Cameroon?
Yeah.
So what do you think so far?
Okay, because I'm looking at this guy and I know at this point, in our history and what's going on, white America is not the culprit for what's happening with Black people and the reason why we are not succeeding. It is not white people's fault. It is not the fault of racism at all. It is the fact that we got a bunch of raggedy ass dusties who don't want to do their part in this society. They don't want to do what they're supposed to do as men. You know, somehow or another, morality has gone out the freaking window, and people think that they can act any kind of way. Criminality is admired. You know, the family, a successful family structure that we know, you know, is good for everybody, is put off on the back burner. The problem with Black people right now is not white people. It's not racism. It's Black people. It's Black people adopting a damn culture that is destructive to ourselves.
And white liberals excusing it.
Happening. We are our own biggest problem. Just like when we have all of these women like me who are divestors who say, you know, we're stepping away from this. Who's the problem? Black women have been brought up to believe that we have to worry about, like, when we step outside the house, racism. That's just paramount. Black women have been taught to not see the real problem that's affecting them on an everyday basis. It's not racism. It's Black men inside the home and on the street who are doing what they're doing to us, including Black femicide, Black domestic violence, the trafficking of Black women, on and on and on. Who's our real enemy? It's not Jim Bob, who lives in Alabama, who doesn't want them niggers living around him. It's Deontay, you know, at the hot dog stand beating the hell out of us because he's just got an issue with Black women, and it's easy to take his frustrations out on us.
I see.
I'm not worried about Jim Bob. I'm worried about Deontay.
How can you be How can you hurt somebody if you're not physically there? Is that what you're saying?
Right. I don't give a damn about Jim Bob. Jim Bob can think whatever in the hell he wants to think. I'm worried about Deontay when I go to get a damn hot dog, hit me in the damn head because he's feeling frustrated for whatever reason, and he feels entitled to just knock me out into the next world.
To me, segregation is an example of a non-aggression principle. It's, I'm not going to be around you, therefore I can cause you no harm by not being around you.
You know what happens to me with segregation is, okay, I'm not in favor, as far as that goes, I'm like, I just want to move around because I just move around. All right. I'm like,
well, you'll see these kids are.
But as far as segregation goes, now, is that going to make you concentrate on the problems that you actually have in your community now that you can't blame everything else on like this outside community? If Black people segregate like we used to be segregated, are we going to actually pay attention to who's creating all the problems now that we can't blame white people for it?
Let me also point out something he said, and let me use an example here.
Okay.
He said, y'all made the rules, you invented the system, and you didn't see us as equal. This, to me, is an example of what's called the genetic fallacy. And let me use an example.
Okay.
People who own Volkswagens are evil because Volkswagen is a car company that was created by the Nazi Party.
Right.
Henceforth,
Right.
therefore, ergo, if you own a Volkswagen, you're a Nazi. White men wrote the Constitution, ergo, hence, and they said black people aren't equal. Henceforth, therefore, ergo, all white men today are racist.
You know, I'm going to add into that. Here's a quick story.
Please.
I am an American descendant of slavery, right? And from my father's side is mostly white. And when I found out everything about my genetic history, blah, 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 one of the things I did was I wrote to a lot of my white relatives because I did it on Ancestry and I did it on 23andMe. And when you do it on 23andMe, they give you a listing of your family, whoever they are that are registered. And so one night I set up and I wrote a bunch of them. And what I did was I said, hey, our great grandfather, we share the same great grandfather. Hello, cousin. You know, and I did this to a bunch of my white family, like all across the South. It is a lot of them. And the reason why I did it was not to inflict white guilt, because I don't believe in guilt. You should be guilty about the stuff you did, not the stuff that your relatives did. Okay. I feel bad what happened to my relatives back in the day. I feel bad. I feel their pain, but I don't know. So anyway, so when I did that, it was just because I didn't want to say, hey, you're horrible people. I condemn you because your great grandfather did this to my great grandmother. I just said, hey, guess what? This is our shared history. And now we're here and let's just acknowledge the past. I don't want anything from you, but this happened in the past. But here we all are today struggling through it for whatever it is. You know, and some of my family members, they wrote me back and they were like, you know, hey, it's good to know you from that side of the family. And I'm like, yeah, it's good to know you too. You know, because we're all just humans, right? And some of us are good and some of us are shitty. And and just because you're black doesn't mean you're a good human being. And just because you're white doesn't mean you're a shitty human being. You're on this earth like the rest of us and you're trying to get by.
Well, that's the race Marxism they're trying to teach to children.
Well, you know,
That's
as far
the
as
conflict
Marxism
theory.
goes, I don't know the whole Marxism thing. I just know
Oppressor versus oppressed.
I just know I'm a Christian. That's what I know. I know I'm a Christian.
You're a Protestant.
I'm a Protestant. Yes, I am a
Yeah.
Protestant. I'm a United Methodist.
You don't pay homage to saints.
No, I don't believe in saints. No.
Right.
No.
Same here. But we are a Protestant church,
Mhm.
and there's only one person that we think is the man.
That's it.
Galatians, neither Greek nor Jew. And
That's it. And that's how I was brought. I don't worship individuals. Even I don't worship celebrities either.
right. I'm similar to you with like DZ, like that aspect. Yeah, from where I'm from, I will profile.
Mm-hmm.
And
But that's just
But I'm-
smart, right? Isn't that smart? Isn't that being aware of like your environment? Do you go to Jellystone National Park and like just walk around with a buffalo like la la la, they're just big cows, or do you understand that these are wild animals that could probably kill you?
oh, you mean like the bears?
Well, okay. The
Yeah,
bears.
black bears.
I'm
Oh
sorry,
yeah,
I said like the
well,
whole thing with like, you know, these what are those? The bison.
oh yeah. Well, no, I get what you're saying. Yeah.
Right, you know.
Well-
I mean, are you aware of your environment and what could be like something that's like, you know, could threaten you? Or are you just out there like la la la, everything is
I know
butterflies?
I know if I'm going through the woods, particularly, I'll usually have my 357.
Right, because you know what.
I don't. I have heavier ammo, like a hard cast for a bear attack or something that I wouldn't carry normally for a two-legged predator, if you know what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so let's hear his reaction. So I just wanted to point out, I like what you said, and then I wanted to point out what he said and what I believe is a genetic fallacy. This country was founded on racism. and that applies to today, as though nothing has changed, no amendments have been written, affirmative action wasn't real, and all those things. So here's what happens when so this guy disagrees with him. Now watch what he does.
Yeah.
So
Dusty.
So what part are you not understanding?
I don't think that white Americans are responsible
Someone disagree with me. That never happens.
for the position of black Americans.
Okay. Hey, bring that camera closer. Look. Okay, look, listen.
What is he doing?
I don't even know.
He's coming into a space.
Right. Okay. I'm like, what are you doing, man?
This is an example of this is a form of physical passive aggressiveness.
Yeah, exactly. This is physical intimidation.
Right.
He's saying system. He's saying institutionalized. I have to disagree 100%. HBCUs were.
There's system institutional racism, but I go to a 90+% black college.
So you don't know nothing about that then.
There's no 90% any other college in the country. Mexican, Asian, Pakistani, Arab, Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there are Christian academies and there are Jewish academies, but that's based off of a religion.
Right.
And those aren't being those are now starting to be frowned upon because they go against the neoliberal Democrat globalist regime.
Okay, but aren't they supposed to?
They should, yeah.
I mean,
Spirituality should transcend should transcend.
I had a good friend who went to Oral Roberts University. Oh my gosh, she's a fantastic person. And her parents sent her there because they thought that she was kind of like, getting a little out of control. And it helped to rein her in. Because she was a wild girl.
Yeah.
So
I'm saying my point against him is only your group is allowed to have a 90+% college.
Right.
Any other group that wants that will be stopped.
And
right. And we've even said in Philly, 2 Chinese people have ran for mayor saying we want a school just for our kids.
Were created to to fight against racism inside of classrooms. If you want to talk about modern day, in 2012, I have to say,
how is there racism in a classroom where it's just you?
21% of African Americans were more likely to be shot by the cop just because of the whole Trayvon Martin and George Zimmerman case. So,
did you hear what he said?
Okay, where is he getting those statistics from?
21%.
Because I feel like at this point they're just pulling stuff out of their ass.
Well, and I don't understand the statistics. So because Zimmerman shot Trayvon Martin when Trayvon Martin was banging his head on the concrete, that led to more police shooting black people.
Yeah. Okay. How did that translate?
Your idea of that racism does not exist now, when I can really get pulled over by a cop right now. I go for my license and I just get shot, and the only thing that they can say was, "Oh, I thought it was just a weapon." And
I think that's Philander Castile.
Yeah.
They get a smack on the
And that was a bad shoot. That cop should be in prison.
wrist and go on about your day. Mm-hmm. But if you was in that situation and you pulled out your ID and you got shot, they're doing a whole investigation, and more than likely, he's probably going to lose his job and he's going to be serving time in jail.
Mm-hmm. And this happened after Floyd.
Okay, but I'm still looking. Okay, give me examples of institutionalized racism. You're giving me individual things. Give me examples. Because when I say institutionalized racism, I'm thinking the GI Bill. I'm thinking redlining. I'm thinking things like that. Give me examples of real institutionalized racism you can point to and say, this is what's happening. Not like individual anecdotes.
Well, to use Jacob Blake, Ahmaud Arbery, and George Floyd, all of those cops were charged with murder.
Right.
Now, Jacob Blake and Rayshard Brooks, those cops were eventually put back on the force because Rayshard Brooks and Jacob Blake deserved to get fucking shot.
Mm-hmm.
And Mayor Keisha Lance Bottoms in Atlanta tried to charge those 2 cops that shot Rayshard Brooks with murder, and they finally got their jobs back. And all 4 cops that were involved with George Floyd are in prison.
So the justice system actually worked. So you can't use those as an example because the justice system worked in those examples.
Again, the Philando Castile was a bad shoot. The guy reached for his concealed carry license, and the cop pulled out his gun and shot him.
Right.
And that cop should be in prison.
Yeah.
And I think that cop is in prison. So, and I've been pulled over, and I've had to hand my concealed carry to the police officer. But you know what I do when I get pulled over? I take my keys, I put them on the dashboard. I put both my hands together on top of the steering wheel at 12 o'clock, and I roll all the windows down a little bit so they can see in the car, and I stay at that position so they can see my hands.
Mm-hmm.
And I tuck my shirt in so they can see the guns. And I have all my shit in my hand, and I keep my hands above my head on the steering wheel. And depending on the questions will depend on whether I say yes, no, this, or this is my lawyer's name.
Mm-hmm.
And if he arrests me, he arrests me. I just shut my fucking mouth. I've been to court before. I just shut my fucking mouth. This is my lawyer. I'm not. Like, do we have to watch a cop video of a woman or a person freaking out when they get pulled over and like? We'll keep going.
Yeah, keep going.
I 21% because of Trayvon. I don't understand.
Total is when you get into like the actual statistics on like by and large, what we see is that if you control for the likelihood of being arrested and also the crimes that they're being accused of, Black Americans are not actually shot more likely than white Americans. And what's even interesting is if you look at the data for people who try to assault a police officer while they're being arrested, Black Americans are actually 40% less likely to be shot under those circumstances. So I don't think that's true. And also, if it is the fault of white people, why are Black officers more likely to shoot Black suspects than white officers are? Hispanics are also less likely to shoot Black suspects than Black officers are. So I don't think that you can point the finger and say this is because of white people, when even when those things do happen, the Black officers are the ones pulling the trigger.
Okay, one.
Well,
so he said black. He
well,
said black cops. Go ahead.
I said, well, okay. Because it's true. You know what? First of all, Black cops, I don't care what color you are. Once you put on that uniform, you're blue. And I know a lot of cops, and I dated a lot of cops. I've been in relationships with cops. Once you put on that uniform, color kind of goes out the window. You're just blue.
Well, as someone, okay, so this is good perspective then. How does the Black community see a Black cop?
You know what? Some think, good job. He's got a good job, right? And then some see him as like traitors, but most of them just see Black cops as like, they got a good job. Okay. There's no real hatred of Black cops, even though we know some Black cops are bastards. Yeah, some cops are bastards, So there's no real admiration for them. They just think, he got a good job with a good pension.
Right.
I will not deny that happens, but 2, I need to see the statistics before I just go off of what you have to say. So if you have a reliable source about the statistics, I will gladly shut up about it.
So I need your source, but trust my source.
Right. I need receipts from you, but I'm just going to tell you what I feel on the top of my head.
Source, trust me, bro.
Mm-hmm.
But with that going forward, it's hard to sit here and be like, oh, white people are hated on when you guys made the rules. And you guys made all of these rules, even though it was way back in what,
The school was founded?
No. Not
Why is he looking at him for the answer? Shouldn't he know the answer?
Sorry, he forgot some of the talking points.
here, not the school. I'm talking about everything like history. 18 what? Well, no. When was the Constitution written?
1787.
1787. So it's 2023, and a lot of those laws are still being used to this day. So can
you give, again, like you said, what's an example of those laws? Like search and seizure, like First Amendment, like Second Amendment, like the right to an attorney. Those laws are still today. Is that bad, or is that a flex for the Anglo-Saxons that created the country?
I think that's a flex, because especially if you look at like all these different countries, all these different African countries. What laws did they come up with like that for their people?
Do you mean before or after colonialization?
Shit today.
Well, Uganda just passed a it's called an anti-LGBTQ, but the part of the law they don't tell you is that they'll kill you if you have sodomy with a child. And that's the part they don't tell you. And I don't have a problem with that.
I don't have a problem with that either. This is their country. That's their rules. That's their culture. If that's what they say, okay, you know what? Hey, I don't believe in going into somebody else's country and telling them you have to do things the way we do. We want you to do things.
But Wicked, we need to put another synagogue on the Gaza Strip.
Okay, you know what? I always try to be very neutral when it comes to Israel and Palestine. But I will say this: free Palestine.
What I'll say to the small hats is, every time the Americans have a bomb strike or a war, are innocent people killed? And they always go, yeah, of course. And I go, okay. Every time the IDF attacks Palestinians, do they ever kill innocent people? And I get, oh, well, they would have grown up to be a terrorist anyway.
When it comes to that whole thing, because when I was in college, I specialized in the Middle East and North Africa, so I got a lot of that. I got a lot of their history, got a lot of what was going on. I was even an exchange student over there. I'll say this:
Israel.
I was an exchange student in Lebanon.
Wow.
Okay, and I left Lebanon because I was at the American University of Beirut, and then they shot the president of the American University of Beirut in the head on his way to his office, and I was like, "Whoop, time to go." So,
when was this?
1984.
Wow.
And so then I moved on over to the University in Brighton. But as far as all that goes, I understand what Jewish people have gone through the years, especially in Europe, especially the Holocaust and all of that. What I don't understand is how they could turn around and like put their morality on hold and then do what they're doing to the Palestinians, because that's some foul bullshit. So I am not an anti-Semite. I feel for all the underdogs. I feel for injustice. And what I believe right now is I don't think that what they're doing over there is just.
Yeah, those are the three things I point out to people. I'll say they'll say, oh, well, 6 million people died. And I'll go, yeah, but in that war, 70 million people died. Why do we only remember 6 million of them?
Right, exactly. And these were not the people who we're punishing people who had nothing to do with it.
Or I'll say, someone will say, oh, the Holocaust. And I'll go, oh, which one? And they go, oh, the genocide. And I go, oh, the Cambodian genocide? No. The Rwandan genocide? No. The Holodomor, the Ukrainian genocide? No. Oh, the Armenian genocide? No. Oh, the Chinese under Mao Zedong? No. Well, oh, it's like, oh, so there's more than one?
Okay, we constantly have genocides. I mean, what did they call Cambodia?
The Indian
killing
genocide?
fields?
The Khmer Rouge under Pol Pot's 1975 to 1979.
And they had towers of skulls. What about those?
Yeah.
So, yeah,
They
look,
they reduced people to labels. And that was with radio. And this is something I try to tell people. I say, you should study the Rwandan or the Khmer Rouge because this was all accomplished with radios and children.
Mm-hmm.
Well, anyway, or another thing I like to say is maybe that's why you hate Christianity is because one of your own people told you you're not so special, right? Like that's the whole concept is here's this guy, he was born in a manger, he was of your tribe, and he turned around and said, salvation is for everyone, not just us.
Not just the chosen people.
Right. Right. I can understand the animosity now, because the more I learn, the more the stories I'm learning, and the more I'm studying, I'm like, I'm starting to understand a little bit now.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's what, and that is a subject. Oh my God, it is so. You know what? You have to tiptoe around that subject because they have an enormous amount of influence. Not just them, but for really, really, really conservative Christians who believe that if you do anything to impede the second coming, that.
Yeah, but who's second coming?
Well, who was here the first time? I think
that's something I'll never understand. It's like we've had that conversation before.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm a Christian, like I was having this conversation with my neighbor. My neighbor is an Indian, and I was talking about this pastor who's they're trying to kick out of this school in Wisconsin. It's a Catholic college, and they had a Jewish guy as the head of their board, and the Jewish guy wanted to bring in all this neoliberal stuff, and this pastor, this priest was like, no, that's against our religion.
Right.
You don't do that. And it's our job as Christians to call it out.
Right.
And everybody called him anti-Semitic. And he's like, no, I'm talking about this neoliberal agenda you're trying to bring into our college. It's wrong. And it's our responsibility as Christians to point it out. And when I was saying this to my Indian neighbor said, oh, you don't like Jews. You are an anti-Semite. So I looked at my neighbor and I said, do you go to a temple? And he said, yeah, of course. I said, okay. And your temple has a board, right? Like a people who run the temple. Oh, of course. I said, okay. And how many Jews are on your board? And he thought about it and he said, none. I said, oh, so you're anti-Semitic? No. So I put him on the defensive.
Mm-hmm.
I said, so why is it okay for you to have Indian people running your temple, but it's not okay for Christians to have Christians running their Christian school?
Okay.
I said, if I go to the JCC, how many Christians are on the board? 0. If I go to the mosque, if I go to the Harrisburg Mosque, how many Jews are on the mosque? 0. Like religion is one of the true forms of discrimination that's still tolerated.
Oh, 100%.
Right.
100%. But it's like, hey, I am a United Methodist. That's what I am. That's my belief system. That's my ideology, and that is my philosophy towards a lot of things I do in life. Now, if somebody who were not a United Methodist wanted to suddenly start dictating different things, I would look at them like, you have no authority here. Why are you even here?
Yeah.
So,
why would a Catholic go to Israel and put a yarmulke on his head and claim allegiance to another religion of people?
Exactly. What is it that
Biden,
you actually believe
Trump,
in? Because that's
DeSantis.
clearly you're not being truthful.
Right.
A real Christian, and I know that this sounds horrible, but a
No, it
real
doesn't.
Christian who believes in everything that, Jesus stood for, the New Testament and everything, would look at Jewish people as if they were still lost.
Right.
But if you say that, it's considered being anti-Semitic, but
I'll find a word for anti-Christian. Right. Well, I'll find a word for anti-Christian. It's like, look, I'm not sending my kids to go die in your fucking war.
No.
And that's something we're getting way off topic. Let me get back to the debate.
Let's pull back. Let's pull back big. All right.
No. I agree with you. I go to a Protestant church as well. It's like, and I had this conversation with my priest. I said, am I a traitor if I put on another hat? And he said, yes. I said, okay. So
yes,
then you don't like any of our so then you don't like any of our presidents. And he went, he said, I see where this is going. I said, well, do you stand by what you say or not? Because we can always go to another church. I give you money every week. I expect you to not be a fence sitter.
Right.
Terrible.
Do you believe in the tenets of your church or not?
Right. Right.
Are you a believer, or are you just full of garbage, full of shit?
Right. Exactly.
Also say, so we can agree that history is affecting the present. Do you agree or do you disagree?
I agree.
Or do you want me to go into more detail about that?
I agree. I think that, if you don't mind, one of the most famous lines in the Constitution is this idea that all men are created equal, and our Supreme Court has solidified that with things like the Civil Rights Act to make that literally the law of the land. So there is no case now in contemporary America where Black Americans are discriminated against at an institutional level compared to white Americans or any other types of Americans.
Did you say at an institutional level?
Yeah.
At an institutional level.
Yes, sir. So you seem to keep wanting to pivot back to, the founding of America, maybe being written such.
I'm not trying
I'm
not trying to pivot. I'm trying to let you understand that stuff from the past tends to affect the future.
How does it affect? That's what I'm confused on. How does that affect now?
How does it affect it now?
Yes, sir.
Which parts?
So how does the founding of America?
Are you picking cotton, Regin? Damn. See, this guy's too soft.
Well,
someone whipping your ass
picking
like cotton.
Jesus. Look at this Dusty. He's on a college campus, but who's he talking to? I don't know, the janitor? Is this guy a student or is he just a freaking janitor?
Oh,
because he don't look like no 19-year-old student to me.
We keep stopping it. Let's just watch.
Okay.
America being perhaps disadvantageous to.
What don't you understand? There's racism. You're in a college where it's 90% you. No other group in this country is allowed to have that.
Black Americans. How does that affect the position that you guys are in now, 240 years later?
Not understanding our culture, not understanding everything that comes behind us. A lot of black people can get rejected at a job just for a hairstyle. Mm-hmm. For me right now, I have twists. I can show up to a job right now and I can get denied. Mm-hmm. Although I can meet every single requirement that they had and some. Just off of a hairstyle. The Crown Act. Please look it up. Education is very important.
I think the reason you won't get hired at your job is because you don't know how a microphone works. He gives you a microphone and you don't hold it next to your mouth, so I can't hear you. Jesus. That's the best example he has of racism. You got to cut your hair? Yeah, well, okay, like, I would ask him, okay, did Twitter have the right to kick off Donald Trump? Private business, right? Yeah, okay, so then they can ask you to cut your hair.
Well, you know what? The thing about this is, I will say this, okay, 20-something years ago, I worked this corporate job, and I wanted to get a certain hairstyle, but I knew the place that I worked at was super conservative. And so what did I do? Before I went and got my hair done, I went to, I went to HR and I asked them, I said, is this okay? Now, how screwed up is that I had to get permission to get a certain hairstyle, but I did. But that was 20-something years ago. Because a lot of times they consider black hair unprofessional if we do like a natural hairstyle. But things have changed, and things have really, really changed. Now I wear my hair in a natural hairstyle, and it's very much accepted. But 20 something years ago, I had to get permission to change my hairstyle.
You got permission, or you had to ask for permission, and
you know what? I wanted to make sure it was going to be okay, because I wasn't going to get some expensive hairstyle and go to work and then have them tell me I had to take it down.
I mean, hospitals for the longest time had a policy that you couldn't have open tattoos.
Right.
Is that racist?
No, because that applies to everybody.
Okay.
But
now you can.
Yeah. Now you can come with a whole sleeve, whatever you want. But back in those days, I wanted to make sure it was going to be okay, because I knew that a lot of Black hairstyles are not considered professional, and what I was doing at the time, I had to be very, very professional. Yes, kind of screwed up. I had to get permit. I had to make sure it was okay, but I did, because that was the environment that I was working in. I was working in a corporate environment where they expect you to look a certain way. They don't want you to be, Miss Individuality. They want you to,
represent,
come in there, and present a certain image that the corporation wants you to present. And I wanted to make sure I was within the guidelines.
All right, let me try this.
Okay.
If I went to Japan and I got hired by a company, would I have to bow?
Probably, yeah, because it would be polite.
Can I say it's racist for me to bow?
No, because that's their culture. When you set the rules, you have to go along with it.
Okay.
And it's for everybody. And that's why when this happened to me back in the days, honestly, at the time, I didn't think it was racist. I still don't think it was racist. I just wanted to make sure I was going according to the company guidelines as far as the dress code. Some people would think that dress code was racist. I don't know. I don't know.
Was there anything else at your job that you would deem as against your people, against Black, against
No, it was a great job. Are you kidding me? It was a great job.
Well, I don't know. That's why I want to ask.
No, it was a great job. I loved it there. I just wanted to make sure I was in compliance. They gave me, this is the thing that you will hear certain people in my situations talk about, is divestors. I have gotten more opportunities to get ahead and do things and achieve things in life by white people than I ever did by Black people. This particular job I had, I was the only Black person in management. They looked at me, they looked at my abilities, they looked at what I did, they looked at my performance, and I got advancement after advancement after advancement. It was a great job. And like I said, when I wanted to change my hairstyle, I wanted to make sure I was in compliance. Was that particular instance racist? I don't know. I didn't think of it as being racist. I just thought of it, as me making sure I was in compliance.
Okay. Do you think this example is a strong example for him to use, that a company requires him to cut his hair?
No, I don't, because I think that I have seen the dress code for everybody, not just Black people, but for white men, saying you can't have your hair cut below like your collar, you can't wear earrings.
We're not allowed to shave our head where I work.
Right. Okay. So they have dress codes for everybody. Is that racist that you can't shave your head?
You can't have piercings. You can't have tattoos on your neck or your
Is
arms.
that racist, or does that apply to everybody?
It's everybody where I work.
Right, it's everybody.
I'm not private sector. Let me just say that.
Right. I work in the private sector, and we have a lot more leeway, but the field that I work in is very conservative too. You can't come in there looking any kind of way with your your nose ring and your pastel hair and all of that. You come in there looking like that, you're going to have conversations with HR because they're going to be distracting.
Pennsylvania is getting a little more woke, where you can have the colored hair, the purple, the green, the orange, but it still has to be presented like it's got to be in a bun. It has to be cut well. They don't really like women having like half of their head shaved and the other head. They don't like that. It's tolerated, but they tell you they strongly don't prefer it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So
we have the rule that says you can color your hair, but it has to be a natural color.
Okay.
So that doesn't apply to. I mean, they're not like, okay, you can't have pink hair, but if you want to have red hair, you can. And my hair is colored, and it's a deep auburn. And no, my hair is not a deep auburn. My hair is black.
Yeah.
But it's still acceptable. You know, hey, when you're in somebody else's play box, you have to go according to their rules. I'm in somebody else's, I'm in somebody else's, so I have to go according to their rules because this is how I make a living.
Yeah, I'm in public, so I have to yeah. However, I will say this. I am going to keep the decision written by the Supreme Court in my back pocket from now on.
Mm-hmm.
The next time we have our DEI training,
mm-hmm.
guess what I'm pulling out of my pocket and reading? Excuse me, you shouldn't reduce me to a stereotype. That's bad. That's unconstitutional. Right out of the Supreme Court. Right out of the Supreme Court.
That I'm looking at that whole decision, and I'm like, okay, we're worried about this when the real problem with a lot of these kids that were objecting, they're not even touching the real problem because it's not affirmative action. It's all the kids that get in there because, their legacy. Those are the ones that are really taking up all the spots.
Did you see the kid who got into Syracuse because he wrote Black Lives Matter 100 times?
Oh, really? Okay, that's all it takes? Not test scores, not interviews, not like just politics, huh? Okay, well, let's see how that goes over. I mean, he got in there, but let's see how it goes over when he's in class and they start giving him all his assignments and everything. You can get in there however you want, but can you perform?
And before somebody says I'm lying, because I hate that. Hang on one second. We'll get back to that guy.
Okay.
Right here. You see this? Teen accepted to Stanford after writing Black Lives Matter 100 times on application. When it comes to college essays, one teen is showing that a short but powerful message may be the path to success.
Okay, that's nonsense.
That's dumb, right?
That's dumb as hell.
Right. All right. You want to get back to Mr. Wizard here?
Yeah.
Yeah, they don't hire me because they don't cut my hair. No, I handed you a microphone and you're holding it at your waist, which is why I'm going to have to lean towards you to hear you. Jesus.
And you talking about inside of classrooms, a lot of Black people don't really go off to college unless it's a HBCU, or if it's the first 2 years they're doing it at a technical school and then they're transferring over.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of us don't really even have the funds to even attend a college.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm blessed to have that opportunity from my parents in a 2-parent household. But you have to understand that a lot of stuff does stem from racism.
What does the racism have to do with the lack of funding? I mean, in my opinion, I think that there's great opportunity for Black Americans to attend schools all over the country. I mean, there are so many different grants and scholarship programs that are specifically for minority students or minority applicants that white students don't get to enjoy. And even we find that Black and brown students are more likely to get scholarships when they apply versus white students because of things like that. Or even we know that when equally qualified applicants apply to a school, Black applicants are 20 times more likely to be accepted than equally qualified white students. Asians get a little bit ticked down, I think 5 or 6% less likely, simply because of things like affirmative action and this idea of progress that we've been trying to actualize throughout society. So I don't think it can be simply ascribed to Black students aren't going to college because of racism. I think it's simply because of choices that are made within the Black community that don't tend to result in that as an outcome.
Silence.
And we know that's true because of the Supreme Court case that was just proven that two major colleges, Harvard and the University of North Carolina, So I think it's interesting. In the Grutter decision, they said the three main factors to nix affirmative action was they couldn't reduce people to stereotypes. Race could only be used as a positive. And at some point, the tipping of the scale, putting our thumb on the scale, had to stop. And in Grutter, they gave it a 25-year decision. And what they learned was through these two colleges, the University of North Carolina had created like a 40-point system where race was being used both as positive and a negative. So it's a zero-sum game. If race can be used to admit somebody, it could also be used to deny somebody. And the numbers they came up with was like 1,400 students a year were being denied because of race. The second thing is reducing people to stereotypes. This is something that happened at Harvard University, where they were creating character tests as a way to get around the merit and the standardized testing. And for 3 years in a row, Black students always scored the highest in the character test, and Asian students always scored the lowest. And I don't mean a few, I mean every single time. And when asked, what is the difference between an East Asian and a West Asian? What is the difference between an Arab and a Pakistani? There were no concrete objective standards. It was just Asian. It was just Black. It was reducing to stereotypes. And finally, when asking Harvard and UNC, if you reach, say, let's say UNC's, the university, let's say North Carolina State is 20% Black, and North Carolina's student population becomes 20% Black, will you stop? And they said, no, we're going to keep going. So there was no clear end in sight to what they were doing. And these are three of the primary reasons they said this had to stop. And I just like to say that to show that I read the decision because I was interested why they chose to stop it.
Right.
So I think when he says that Blacks are being admitted over others, I just want to give some of the proof. Like I said, I don't like to say anything on this channel without some sort of evidence.
You know, when they say that Blacks are being, I can see that because you know what? I can honestly see like liberals who want to overcompensate for whatever happened in the past, for the sins of the past. They want to overcompensate to the point where, you know what, now you're not achieving justice anymore. You're not evening out the scales anymore. Now you're doing something completely different. So, as far as the whole decision with the decision that the Supreme Court just made, you know what? In some ways, I'm like, yeah, I can see what they're talking about. Yeah, I can see I can see the merits of what the decision was made of, you know, and then I can see the other end. I'm like, because I'm still prejudiced against, you know, I'm still in favor of my people because I am Black. But I'm like, yeah, you know what? At a certain point, we got to put bullshit aside and let's be fair to everybody. I want people to be admitted to college on their own merits, not just because somebody was discriminated against 50 years ago or 100 years ago. I want the best and the brightest to move ahead, not just, oh, you know, let's pat them on. I was just saying something the other day, and I was saying how some white liberals treat Black people like they're a dog. They got to be rescued like a pit bull. They got to rescue this little poor dog on the side of the road and put a sweater on it and like, oh, you know, we just, you know, and make up for all the wrongs. No, nobody needs that. Nobody needs that. Either you achieve because you're able to achieve, or you fall back and, you know, wither away. That's the way I want it. Let Darwinism. Either you can make it, or your ass falls back into the dust.
I think the premise was at some point we just have to start treating each other as equals. we're either going to start doing it or we're never going to do it.
So we'll see. Oh Lord, we're all hanging in there. We're all trying to make it, aren't we? Can you hear me clearly?
You're kind of sounding robotic now.
Yeah, because I got like this whole weird fuzzy thing with you right now.
Yeah. Here, I'll tell you what. Do you want to come out and come back in?
Mm-hmm.
All right. How's that? Is that better? Did we lose Wicked? Now I can't hear you. Hey, Wicked, can you hear me? StreamYard. Let me try one more time. Here, I'll put up the invite. We'll keep it going.
And what kind of things are you talking about when you refer to the Black community?
I think that if you look at the data, Black students don't spend as much time doing homework when they're in school. They're not as likely to.
I really want to. Hey, does anybody got a phone that can pull up this guy's statistics? I'm not trying to be mean or anything. Can anybody pull up this guy's statistics?
We'll put it on screen after, because if I say something wrong, I'm gonna get eaten alive.
I will fix it.
So
No. Just let it ride. We don't need to be having that up anymore.
So that is true, though. And in terms of time outside of school spent doing homework, Black people are much less likely to spend time doing homework than white students are. And so I think that can translate to perhaps a lesser inclination to pursue higher education. I think that if a Black student wants to go to college, they have every opportunity to do so. And even people are willing to give them advantages to pursuing that. I think it's simply a matter of them not wanting to pursue it for whatever reason.
Well, one, you have to understand this. I have to, in order for me to keep on going off of these conversations, I would love to see the statistics.
Mm-hmm.
That's just me going forward. But at the same time, I can't comment on that. I can't.
Yeah, again, everything I say is true, and everything you say, I have to question. Yeah, okay, well, yeah, okay, for sure.
I can't comment on the studying situation because I don't know if that's true or not for me to even.
I lost Wicked, everybody. We're trying to see if she can come back. What we'll do is we'll hold off. We'll save. I want to save this for Wicked. So what we'll do is let's go to some Philly local news. Maybe I lost her phone. That was fun. I always enjoy talking to her. So what we'll do is we'll see if she can come on. Let's hit one story. We'll save that. Wicked, if you can hear me, I'm sorry I lost you. I started to your phone started to get robotic-y, started to sound like a robot, and then I couldn't hear you anymore. And Yeah, of course. Oh wow. Yeah. Yeah, I'm getting. Yeah, I'm tired of it too. Oh, Wicked, I can't hear you. What I'll do is I'll reach out again. I'll cover this story probably tomorrow because I'm reading it's already pissing me the fuck off. I hope you're well. I appreciate you coming on my channel. We'll continue with John Doyle and his going to an HBCU, trying to have a civil discussion with a bunch of people who don't want to be around him and don't want to hear what he has to say and don't want to talk to him. And hopefully we'll come back and we'll see what happens. Wicked, I'll talk to you later.